Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this session, Crossing Bridges, Reinventing Your Art Form. We are very happy to have artist and filmmaker Mischa Leinkauf here today, and of course, Maike Mia Höhne, who will lead you through the session. We'll find out about Mischa's new project, and after 1 hour, we will have another session here, which is called Meet the Festivals. There'll be like a small 15 minutes break in between, and you're very welcome to stay or to come back for this session. Mischa will be there as well to answer your questions, but yeah, for now, please enjoy this talk.
So before we speak about what we just saw, I think a quick introduction, who you are. I read it out, and then you add what you like to add.
I'm curious.
Okay, me too. So Mischa Leinkauf is an artist and filmmaker from Berlin, which is pretty much true. You were born here in the East, filmmaker from the East. As part of the artist duo Wermke Leinkauf, he creates video installations based on subversive interventions. His works have been shown at film festivals worldwide and at institutions such as the Museum of Contemporary Art Tokyo, Kunstmuseum Bonn, ZKM Karlsruhe, Manifesta 11, Modern Museet, Stockholm, and the Helsinki Art Museum. He has received numerous Grand Prix prizes, and his work has been nominated for various und so weiter und so fort. So, yeah, I mean, like a lot of awards. You've been making films and art since when, actually? When did you start?
Yeah, professionally, 2004.
What does it mean, professionally?
Oh, I did films also on a regular basis, like for my own friends,
okay.
Yeah, when
and
I was young. Yeah.
There was this moment when you started out.
Yeah, it was a conscious decision, actually, at some point to also present the stuff that we did. Yeah, and this was the turning point, more or less, in order to go to festivals, present it to an audience, get some attention for it, feedback. Oh my God, yeah.
Okay, but before we start talking about this first turning point, and then perhaps the next turning point, what is what we just saw?
Yeah, first of all, welcome everybody. Nice that you're here. What we just saw is my last installation that I did in the artist duo Wermke Leinkauf. It is a video installation. Usually I don't show it that way. This was a kind of split screen version of it. It's a video installation with two big LED walls which deals with football fan culture.
What is it called?
Ultras. The work is called Vierte Halbzeit, which means more or less the fourth half of a football game. For people who are into this kind of culture, first and second half, everybody knows. Then there is a saying about the third half, which usually means the aggressive parts of football, ultras, hooligans, however, after the match. And we introduced a kind of fourth half for this one, because this installation deals with football ultras that were connected into political protest on the streets in different regions of the world. It's quite an interesting phenomena to me, because they're organized football fans with a lot of people. And for instance, at the Gezi Park movement in 2013 in Istanbul, the whole Charge ultra group, which is really thousands of people, not only the Charge football ultras, they went into the movement and they supported the whole Gezi Park idea. They have a lot of knowledge about how to fight against police. So they brought the movement quite further. Also in Arab Spring, there was on the Tahrir Square in Egypt, there was the same kind of movement back then. Also at Maidan, which might be a really strange intervention of the ultras, because it's quite nationalist, these guys there. But I see a huge possibility in how to support political protest ideas by these kind of groups. And by any means, this is aesthetically, it's awesome what these guys are doing. So I guess a small idea you got by watching the split screen version. This is quite new, but actually I come from somewhere else because like my works changed over the last couple of years. So the beginning of the film works that I did were more small interventions at the boundaries of public spaces, like places where you're usually not allowed to go or that you cannot enter. Like me and my colleague Matthias Wermke, which I work on an artist do with, we try to like find some gaps in systems, try to intervene with this kind of spaces, and out of that we made films and video installations.
But it's not that you suddenly made up this thing in your mind, ooh, where can I go, where can we go, which place has not been filmed yet? If not, you know, like just to understand how you come to this idea of taking the public spaces for your own ideas.
Yeah, I'm really curious about spaces. By the way, could you, thanks, perfect. Just to show you some examples while talking. So yeah, actually, like I'm really interested in spaces because when I grew up in East Germany, so I spent my youth right in the time in the beginning of the 90s when the wall came down, and I was here in Berlin because I was born here. So there were a lot of like this kind of free spaces or possibilities in an urban environment in the city. So you could actually do whatever you wanted to. So this is how I grew up, more or less.
Is this understood? Like for the people, for the talents, I mean, not for our colleagues, but really like this, there was a very special atmosphere in Berlin, no? It was, I mean, this is the reason why people think today it's special, but it was so different in the 90s, no? Wasn't it?
I mean, yeah, everybody have its own experiences,
Yes.
no question about this. But like my experience was like this was the time when I was 15, you know, mid of the 90s. So this was the time like going out into the streets, like doing stuff, having friends, whatever. And what we discovered back then were like this kind of spaces where we just did what we wanted to do.
Okay, walking, bridges.
Yeah,
On the one hand,
I mean, this is not Berlin. This is Tokyo, actually.
I know it is.
Like, yeah, it's not only bridges. It's also underground spaces. There are so many things in a city that you can explore or investigate somehow, also artistically, because
So,
like
yeah,
this kind of images and atmospheres, smells. In the works that I do, I try to, like, yeah.
Yeah, I think what I really understood when you first talked to me about it was like that we normally go from A to B via a street, and you understood together with Matthias that a city can be walked in different, you can horizontally, vertically, it's like up, down, nothing is impossible, isn't it?
Right, somehow architecture is not a border for us, like walking or drifting through a city, it's more opportunity.
Yes.
This is what I would call it. So you can use it in different ways. From time to time, it might look a little bit dangerous, but don't worry, it's not. It's well prepared, and yeah, so usually we know what we are doing. And
Well, how long did he hang there? What was that, what we just saw? Sorry?
This is from a work called Decisions, Entscheidungen, which is a 10-channel video installation. And he was hanging there, like we were like going through a concept of making a strong decision whether to hang himself, not hang himself, sorry, to hang there or not, and making a decision how long he hangs there, whether he has still the strength to climb up again, or to let go consciously, or because he cannot hold himself anymore.
Sorry, and just to understand, how high is this?
This is actually quite high. This is here in Neukölln. I would call it 10 meters.
And down there's water? Or?
Down there is water, yeah. But
Okay,
in this case, let me show you quickly.
I mean, because we talk about decisions, and I wonder how long he's hanging there, and someone is shooting it. You are not hanging there, no?
He was doing this and also like kind of other funny, interesting places. But I mean, this work is more about like interacting with architecture also,
Yes.
like, and you know, and like feeling this. We always have the feeling of like grabbing stuff. I always need also, you know, when I came in, I had to grab the table just to get an idea what it is, and what material it is. So yeah, let me maybe just quickly run this here, which gives you an idea of the installation in the end. This is like a split screen version of like the monitors that are hanging in the
gallery.
But since we are talking about film and we are at the Berlinale, it makes
Yeah.
sense to just let
Absolutely.
this run in the background. But we can go on talking while.
Okay, but
watching
Decisions
this.
wasn't your first work. So you said in 2004 you took a decision to become professional and to expose yourself as a duo outside, to show your work at festivals. So what was your first work you screened?
Yeah, the first work, yeah, we might show this in the end. It's called the Neon Orange Cow. But to go on with the stuff that you said, like a couple of minutes ago, like this kind of like growing up in Berlin, where there were so many possibilities of like using or like dealing with a city and architecture, in like the working in an artistic field, like making movies or art or installations, whatever, gives me the opportunity to still keep this kind of freedoms, you know, in the city,
energy,
because
yes.
I'm able to work or to go to places even if I get caught, and because most of the things are without permission. But like in the name of art, I'm able to get away with this a lot of times. Not always, but mostly, which helps a lot.
You mean
actually to
you
keep
don't
this kind
ask
of
for permission for
freedoms.
anything?
Mostly not. I mean, it depends. In our early works, we never asked for permission because it was really a strong part of the work itself. Like you say, hey, wait a second, and we also question these ideas of, oh yeah, this is actually the one on the crane right up there. So he was like climbing
it
yeah.
up.
But look at this. He cannot hold. Like his fingers got really long at some point.
But was it for the adrenaline or?
No, never. Even if it looks dangerous from time to time, we don't have any, seriously, I mean, even if it looks weird and you don't trust me, but please trust me, there is no adrenaline involved, because we rehearse a lot of times. Always when we feel, when we go to a place and like we have the idea of making a work and we have the feeling of like, wait a second, we're still somehow nervous, or there is this kind of adrenaline thing in us, we don't shoot. We usually go away, come back a week later or 2 weeks later, whatever, and then do this. Because otherwise, also for us, it's not, we cannot really enjoy the moment. You know, it's not only that it becomes a video or an installation in the end. It's also for us kind of experience, like with the city, because we make the city our own while doing this all over the world.
Perhaps Zwischenzeit is a very good example for taking the city on your own, as you said, because you shot it in Berlin, and perhaps you have an image of Zwischenzeit?
Shouldn't we just show this, like, because there's a small edit of like 5-6 minutes,
we can do that.
which goes through some of the works that we did, like the film works, you know, like mostly we concentrate here on the film works. There are also photos and installations and sometimes objects. But let's just watch this,
to get an
because
idea
I
of
think like
wonderful.
some people won't know what am I doing usually. So let's watch this.
The widescreen.
Might be.
Oh, look.
Oh, thanks. Thanks. It was like a small edit through some works loosely. Yeah.
So Zwischenzeit was the one when we see Matthias on this, how you call it?
A hand car.
Okay.
Yeah.
going through the
Or
city, and there was
Dresden,
this
yeah.
wonderful moment you saw it when the metro came and he waited, because actually it's of course not a space where he should go, but you took the city for the night, at least for several nights, because it took a while to make the rounds through the city.
Yeah,
right?
like most of our works deals with a lot of preparation time, like sometimes years. Like the one in the tunnels in the subway system here in Berlin, like took us a couple of years of like research and trying to find out how this whole system works. Because this also, like all what you have seen right now, I think like more or less everything happened without having a permission to do this. So this is more like the idea of like reclaim this kind of spaces and yeah, to just get over these limitations or rules or sometimes laws. Yeah. But I mean, there is a possibility of art in this case interacting with reality, which I really appreciate, to be honest. Like the one in New York is like a good example for that, because nobody knew in the beginning that like the intention of doing this is an artistic one.
You mean with the flags?
The flag thing.
Perhaps we can,
yeah.
I mean, it was beautiful to see, but I guess not everyone knew what was happening. So basically, you got invited, I think it was 2007, to New York, no? Wasn't it?
For the first time, yeah.
For the first time, and you went there, you were doing an exhibition at a small art gallery, and you liked the city, and you liked the bridge. And
no, it's not, a little bit different. Like you're talking about like how the idea of like changing the flags, exchanging the flags by white ones. Usually there are American, like huge American flags on top, and we changed them for white ones, white American flags. And the idea came like 7 years before we finally did the piece, because we were invited for our first New York exhibition in 2007, and we were really excited to do a new work there, because I mean, New York and the artist scene of uncommissioned art in public spaces in the 60s, 70s, 80s in New York, this was amazing. This was inspiring for us, like for like a lot of years.
Yeah.
So finally we came there with our first small exhibition, but we were really young artists, so we felt like, oh, now it's going on, cool, let's do something great in New York too. But we were completely like stopped by all the curators, all the artists that we met, because everybody told us, don't do the stuff that you do in Berlin here in New York, because they put you in jail, they shoot you down. Don't ever come up with this kind of ideas here. So we felt like for the 3 weeks that we had been there in New York back then, we felt like completely blocked. We didn't do anything, to be honest, except for the last day when the opening was done of the show. Then we felt like a little bit relieved and thought like, hey, wait a second, this is all in your head. This is all in our head in the end. Of course, you can also work the same way like we do in Berlin, Europe, wherever, also in New York. You just have to adapt to the system there. So this was the first time we went up the bridge back then, just to chill out there, not to do anything.
chill out on the Brooklyn Bridge, you got that, no?
Oh yeah, it's a really nice view. It's actually really, really nice view.
But this also gives an understanding of how long it takes to do research and
Exactly.
to understand what you really, really want to do, because that was 2007, and then you thought about the bridge, and the bridge is also a symbol in your work. I mean, you've been on several bridges, but this one was kind of special. Oh yeah, here we go.
Preparation,
Chill out.
preparation time, still
Yeah.
there, American. Yeah, right. I mean, it took us 7 years.
So you came up with the idea of once the relevancy of this bridge in the city, and then the flags, of course, you saw the flags, and you thought of exchanging them for other
Yeah,
flags.
I mean, it's obviously also a kind of political statement. I mean, everybody should decide for himself what it means. But yeah, I mean, we all have our issues with American politics. I mean, Trump wasn't elected back then when we did this. We did the work in 2014.
Yeah, 2014.
But still, yeah, I mean, even nowadays it would be even more important to do such things. But as an American, you definitely cannot do this kind of things because you would end up in jail. I mean, also for us, I mean, we knew before if they would have caught us, 1 year of jail.
So the idea was really like to examine all possibilities to get up, to place the flags at nighttime, I guess. Oh.
Yeah, it was well documented by surveillance cameras in the city in the end. So the press came up. They showed us even better than we did how we did this thing in the end, because they came up with like a lot of surveillance cameras. Yeah, look at this. It's 3:43. So now the first light goes off, and what happened then? Then the second light goes off. Yeah, funny stuff. So the media was somehow became a part of the whole work, because
Yes.
They made something about it. They came up with like ideas of what it could mean.
Because just to understand, because you exchanged the flags, I guess you had a good view, you went down again, and then the sun came up and you had a view onto what you did. It was beautiful weather, it's well documented, and it took a while for the New Yorkers to understand that there's a change, no?
Right, yeah, I mean, a while, I mean, yeah.
And that is where the media comes in, that's where I want to go, because in the very morning it was beautiful, the flags were there and nothing happened, but people passed the bridge.
Exactly, this is actually the difference, you know, this is a piece of fabric, you know, quite a big one, but it's a piece of white fabric. So at some point, it's just a kind of peaceful image for whatever, I leave that open to everybody. And people crossed the bridge, and we were also on the bridge, and we were talking to them, and they were like, oh yeah, maybe there's somebody training how to hoist flags. So they were like curious about what happened up there. And other people were like, yeah, maybe this is a film production, but isn't it nice? Oh, looks good, it's so peaceful. Like this kind of things. And the moment the press helicopters went in and the NYPD helicopters went in, the bridge was blocked completely. There was like the whole anti-terror squad. So everybody then on the bridge was like, oh my God, what's going on? Are we safe? Are we safe? What is this
you were gone
kind of
by the
danger?
time, no?
So from one moment to the other,
Yeah.
like a piece of white fabric can become, you know, like
A threat.
yeah, a threat, yeah. So, but this is really interesting. I mean, this is also like the kind of like art and also movies and whatever, but because they're like filled up with meaning or with ideas or with, or ideology.
But it's also intentionally. I mean, it wasn't perhaps your first intention, but of course you wanted to get into a kind of discourse, because if not, you could have done it elsewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. But I should show you something which I really like, because it tells so much about the way what art can be and should be, but when something happened that is like not officially allowed, then like the whole movement is against you. Let me quickly, it's just a couple of minutes.
I think it's safe to say.
Labarababa sagen wir da auf Deutsch zu.
Labarababa. Yeah, but isn't it nice? I mean,
It's beautiful.
this is. I mean, I love him for like saying this, but in the end, he was like saying like also to us like, oh, we will act on that very aggressively when we change the flags. I mean, what could he do? You know, it's not. But I mean, we are banned from the US since then, obviously, so we cannot go back. But this is actually like he points it in a very good way, I think. Like this is actually also my opinion, you know. Like this is what art should do, like deal with reality somehow, make a strong opinion to something what's going on or what had been done or whatever, but to have a discussion, a discourse about. Yeah, whatever. Everybody have its own ideas about the city's life, politics. Who cares? But this is very important. I mean, at least for me, and also for a lot of people who work and show their movies here at the Berlinale, to like say something, to tell something, and to not only make some commercial whatever.
Coming to the commercial point of view, because we all have to do our living. You made this exceptional work together that's been viewed all over the world. It's been traveling as a film through the whole world. I guess after this work, people approached you, gallerists, did they ask you for making just another exhibition like this, just another project like this? It's like, you know, or were they like, oh, you great work, do whatever you want? Or, you know, like how did it feel and what happened afterwards?
Yeah, this was really funny because then, like afterwards, a lot of people, a lot of institutions came and said, "Oh, please, could you come to Vienna and like put a white flag on the Parliament building or something like this?" We were like, "Hey, wait a second, maybe you didn't get this. This took us a couple of years. This is not for like just planting a white flag everywhere. This doesn't make sense at all." But yeah, we could have made kind of also money with this. Unfortunately, we didn't. No, not unfortunately. But
And you didn't because that has something to do with your point of view also, no? Your position towards what you're doing? Because you could have easily accepted, okay, we go to Vienna, we put the white flag, how much you give me? 2,000, fine, you know.
maybe we are just too stupid because we went to Vienna and like tried to make a new work there, which failed in the end, seriously. So, no. Yeah, I mean, I don't do this for commercial reasons. Yes, I mean, I have to make a living somehow, no question about this. But the way we started our artistic process and work comes from somewhere else. Like, we really have this kind of passion to like deal with spaces. I don't know how to explain this, and I cannot. Like, these things happen in a city, so I cannot easily put this in a museum space. I mean, I do this, but from time to time, not like putting this kind of stuff that we do in the cities into museums, but dealing with these institutions in its own way somehow. Like finding out what's the system of a museum or of this certain institution, and then trying to find some gaps in between, and also make them or like the people who work there or the curators show them, hey, there is even more in your museum. Like,
but
you know, get.
Yes, sorry. I mean, I would just to understand again, because as you said, you grew up in East Berlin and then the wall opened, and in the 90s, that is different to today, because today the public space has been occupied in a different way. In the 90s, you could easily walk Berlin towards the rooftops. You know, you could go up into one house and then walk the city. And this is something you cannot do today. I mean, you can do it, but it's so much more difficult because...
Look, in Tokyo, you still can do this.
You want me to go to Tokyo to do it there?
No. Yeah, you're right. No, you're
But this
you're
has something
right.
to do with your point of view also. Is it a restriction, or do you feel like I even want to go further now as public spaces become rare?
I mean, I question this kind of development because I don't even know if they are still in public space, like really public spaces. No, I still have here. Thanks. Because even the spaces that are called public, a lot of times they are private.
Yes.
Even if you don't feel like. I mean, take the Potsdamer Platz, for instance.
Yeah,
it's a private place. And there are quite strict rules, and also people who check if the rules are followed. So there are a lot of like laws, rules in even in parks. You know, you cannot sit here, or you should walk there, but you cannot lay down here. Don't bring your dog here, or
Don't
you're not
drink
allowed to have a barbecue. Don't drink at the Alexanderplatz nowadays, and like this, all this kind of things. So free spaces. I mean, it's also not easy in societies like we live in nowadays. But still, I question this kind of rules, and my language for this kind of things is art.
Do you get funding for this work?
It depends. It depends.
Do you need funding for this work? I mean,
Yes.
perhaps this is the better question.
Yes,
you
I need,
funding.
since I'm not a commercial artist with like big galleries and like selling stuff that people can put on their walls. We did from time to time, but not that many. So yeah, we need funding. Yeah, no question about this. We also get funding from time to time, but we have like the works, they're separated in a way. There are this kind of like free works that take so much effort to make them happen, and usually years of preparation. Nobody will ever support this kind of stuff because there is no, I cannot say when it will be finished. I cannot say if it will be done in the end, because sometimes it's just impossible. So this is really hard to work with an institution like doing these kind of works. So we separate a little bit between that. So we get funding for works that we make for institutions. We are invited by a biennial or museum or for a show wherever. There will be always a deadline. There's always like the press team who comes like months in advance they want to know what it is. They want to have pictures. They want to know everything. Even the work is not done yet. So, which is really tough for, I mean, a lot of artists to work with. But yeah, we do. So we find different ways to do this. And for these works, sure, we apply for funding from time to time. Then the museums usually pay for a lot of things. From time to time, so we get grants. We also sell some works from time to time.
Would you say it's a different energy that leads you through a work you make for an institution?
Yes, it is. But I like it more and more, to be honest.
Okay, why?
Because it's not that physical. It's not that big of excitement while doing this, but it's more like intellectual, quite interesting to me. And since I'm getting older, this becomes more important, obviously.
Yeah, perhaps we can jump into one of your first works that I like so much, the neon orangefarbene Kuh.
How much time do we still have?
Yeah, we have.
Yeah?
I just want to show this because for the...
Okay. Yeah?
Yeah?
Okay.
Just to give you an idea, because when he was younger, what they did then, actually, you shot. You've never been up.
Oh yeah, usually like the works that we did in the artist tour, which most of them that I was showing are, I'm like we develop everything together, but usually it's like my colleague in front of the camera and I'm doing the whole visual things then. Okay, let's watch this. So yeah, once again, this is our first official work.
2004, Turning Point.
Thanks. You know what? I was like 11 years ago. I was a talent at the Berlinale talent campus. It's a long time ago, and this movie was shown back then. Also,
no.
Also here in this, actually here on that stage. Yeah, funny. Yeah.
It's all about circles.
Anyway.
Him entering into one. It's all about circles. It's all about being very close together. I mean, you have to have. I mean, Matthias, who's up there, must be so secure of you as well. No, so. Yeah, he has to be secure of himself, more or less. This is more important, yeah. And we had a big discussion before that thing. We had a big discussion whether he will be up on the swing or me, because I mean we both like to do the same things. So, but in the end, he cannot use a camera, so he won. He won in the end. Yeah. How did you find? I mean, how come that you go up in the Sony Center and? It's a beautiful image. As you say, it's a very private place. It's all about business, and then you hang up this. How do you say?
Yeah, but there's like, I mean, I spent my whole youth like going through a city or Berlin, like searching for weird places. I don't know where this comes from. I cannot explain this. It's just.
That's the place to go.
Kind of passion. And for that one with the Sony Center, I was sitting with my dad at the Sony Center having a beer after we went to the movies, and then I just realized this weird place. So I went to Matthias and telling him, "Hey, I found actually a really nice spot that we have to shoot." So, and then we found out how to get there, which was quite tough actually. Yeah, because there's a lot of security people around. But we made it.
But it's a beautiful dramaturgy also in the movie. I mean, it's on the one hand, it might have been an installation, but it's also a movie because, I mean, it's classical almost.
Naja.
Isn't it? So I wonder, this is, when, as you said, it's 11 years ago, and I think the white flags, the symbolic threats, is kind of a second turning point in your life. Kind of. It's my thesis, I may say so.
There were so many turning points in my life.
Yeah, I know, but now I speak from
mean.
you, and you are inside, and I come from external. And I wonder how that changed, and as you said already, you're more interested in now working for institutions or for gallerists perhaps. So where do you see yourself going? What is most interesting for you to discover next?
Yeah, I mean, this going into the institutions was like part of our artistic approach from the beginning, to be honest, because, I mean, there are only, I would say, more or less 2 ways of dealing in this kind of scene. The one is you go the commercial way, you're looking for gallerists, find them, sell stuff, because you have to make a living. I mean, come on, yeah? So, and the other way is the institutional way, because they pay you for doing art, and otherwise, like the gallerists or the collectors or whoever pay you to make art. But I guess not always, but mostly this changes the works that you're doing. Like in the beginning, we just did this for, like, how to explain this? Like we didn't really feel the need of making a living in the very beginning, like let's say 2004. We were still students, like art students, so it feels more like conquering the world, exploring and just doing things as much as you can. And at some point you have to make a decision whether to make a living from that or like keep it as something that goes like besides somehow. So our decision was like to go for it. It was like hard. It took us a couple of months or even years to make that decision because we were like we knew more or less that it might change the artworks in the end when you have to make a living from that kind of things, because it's not you don't do a work when you want to, but you're more or less like you have to produce something.
You become a machine, yes.
Yeah, it's a kind of machine. It's also with it's also with the movies. It's like in all this kind of artistic scenes. It's more or less the same. It's a kind of machine. So it's not easy, but I think we are still quite good at this. Like finding a balance between like making really the works that you feel like there is a need for myself to do this, and also from time to time do some works where we feel like, hey, this is a good work, it has to be done, but it might be not that passionate, you know, because or maybe it's not perfectly done in the end, because fuck, there was this bloody deadline and the opening of the museum, so you have to show it at some point. And we try to find a balance, but to be honest, I mean, it's not always, I mean, mostly it's on point, but sometimes there's space above. But I mean, also, I mean, imagine you're completely happy with the stuff that you did. I mean, then what should be next? I mean, so I'm fine. I mean, there's still a lot of ideas, yeah, to come.
Super. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mischa. I think, are there any questions? If not, we have these tables around.
Oh, yeah. Jetzt afterwards, if there are some questions, like afterwards, I will be here for this. What was the name of it? I don't know.
Also du bist auf jeden Fall hier. You're present.
Yeah, I'm present. Yeah. So.
Ich weiß, was ich noch so gerne zeigen würde, ist der Handstand.
Why do you say it in German?
Für uns beide jetzt kurz.
Why do you like that work so much? This is
because I'm a turnerin.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gymnast. I did gymnastics in my youth, so I like this work particularly. It was made for an institution, and actually it's based on a On a joke, no? From the 1980s?
Kind of, no, 1920s. Yeah, a lot of works that we did, or I do a lot of historical research about the spaces where we're working.
Yes.
Same here, we were invited by the Kunstverein Heilbronn, this famous city of Heilbronn in southwest Germany.
South of Germany.
And we found out about a really interesting story that fits our approach to cities somehow a little bit. From 1921, seriously, like 2 electricians went on top of the biggest church in Heilbronn, which is exactly in the center. I mean, it's next to the city hall, and it's yeah. And they performed a handstand on top. Hard to see, but as we figured out that in the city's archive, we felt like this is unbelievable. This is exactly what we have to do for the Kunstverein there. So we found it took us months to find an illegal way to go to this church, but in the end, we made it. So, and I show you like which is really nice. Also, oh, there's a picture missing. So I go back here. Like these guys who did this in 1921, they were called the heroes of Heilbronn. And every 10 years, when there is the anniversary of the event from 21, like all the local newspapers are talking about this and calling them. Do you remember the heroes of Heilbronn doing the handstand back in 1921? So we also became part of the
hero story.
Nah, not really hero story, but of the city's archive at least. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a great image to perhaps really finish this session, but stand on your head sometimes helps to invent and to see oneself in a different way and the world in a different way, and break with stereotypes or other ideas about oneself and keep on going.
Yes, break the stereotypes. This is a nice ending.
Okay, we keep on doing this. Thank you so much.